It's 8 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. This has an unbelievably light agenda, so this should go pretty quick. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's deal with the first and only action item, environmental basic ordering agreement.
Good morning. So I am here today to request authorization to award basic ordering agreements for the environmental engineering and related services. So this is our agenda. We'll go over the BOA, what types of BOAs we have at Loudon Water, how we use the environmental BOA, some of the VPPA requirements, the selection process and timeline, and then of course our recommendation. So what is a basic ordering agreement? I think a lot of this presentation you guys have seen before, but I think it's worth going over. It's a contract mechanism for us to access engineering services. There are other names for basic ordering agreements like on-call contracts or task order contracts. We call them basic ordering agreements here at Loudon Water. And the contract consists of two parts. There's the basic ordering agreement, which defines our terms and conditions. So things like insurance requirements, payment provisions, how we resolve claims and disputes, what the task order process is. And then the second part is the individual task orders. So these items define the scope of work, the deliverables, the schedule, the engineering fee, and we issue those individually over the course of the term of the BOA for each of our particular projects. And a given project can have multiple task orders within it. So we have three engineering BOAs at Loudon Water. We have the civil BOA, which we just renewed in 2025. So that was the last presentation, very similar presentation to this one. It expires in 2029. We also have our community systems BOA, which will expire in early 2027. And then today we are discussing the environmental BOA, which expires in March of this year. So what is the environmental BOA and how do we use it? It's very similar to our civil BOA, except for in the environmental BOA, we are looking at our larger projects, our more complicated projects, our vertical projects. So things like longer water and sewer alignments, booster stations, sewer pump stations, plant work, water storage, etc. It has all of the same components as our other BOAs. We can use it for planning, we can use it for design, we use it for construction services. We also use it for permitting. The permits can range from really basic permits like a grading permit through the county all the way through federal permits from the Corps and others. So how do we select a consultant when we're ready to do a project? We're going to assign a task order. How do we select our consultants? So we review the scope of the project in detail, and then we talk about the consultants that are available to us and their capabilities and their ability to meet the project needs, right? Then we select the consultant that we feel has the best skill set or the best experience for that project. The PM writes a justification memo that's submitted for approval, and then we put it on file. What's really important to note is that we cannot select a consultant based on cost of the work. It is only on qualifications. So if we're trying to decide between two firms, we can ask them for more information related to their qualifications, to similar projects or things of that nature, but we cannot ask them to provide any cost for the work. So the VPPA, it governs all of the work that we do here, and it governs this process as well. The process for selecting consultants is an RFP process. It is qualifications based, and when we're publishing the RFP, we have to put out the scoring system that we plan to use to evaluate the proposals. The contracts are, so this is a little bit different. I know we talked about this last time, but I think it's worth repeating. So the contracts used to be for 1 year, renewable up to 4 years, so total of 5 years. They're now 1 year, renewable up to 3 years, so a total of 4 years. So a little bit shorter than they used to be. There are also limits on fees. So there's an annual limit for a BOA firm of $10 million, and no single project or task order can exceed $2.5 million.
Fee limits is part of the Procurement Act?
Those are part of the Procurement Act, yes. So here's our procurement schedule. We advertised the RFP in August of 2025. The proposals were due in October, and then we proceeded to interviews in January, towards the end of January. And of course, we're here today seeking approval for award of these contracts. If you do agree to approve them, it'll move to the March board meeting, and then we hope to execute agreements by the end of March. All right, so talking a little bit about the RFP. The RFP committee was made of 6 people that were part of the voting side of the committee. There were additional folks who participated in an advisory capacity. There was representation from capital programs, O&M, planning, and water resources on the selection committee. And the committee used the scoring criteria that's outlined here to evaluate the RFPs. So this is a little bit different. So the evaluation criteria is the same as the civil BOA, but we did change the scoring points slightly. We decided to put more emphasis on the firm's technical experience for this BOA. We received 9 proposals, and the selection committee elected to move to shortlist 6 of those 9. Then we moved on to the interviews. So again, the same panel participated in the interview. We developed the questions and the format for the interview. The format is listed here. There was, it's the same for every firm. So there were 5 minutes for introductions, 20 minutes for prepared presentations. So this presentation consisted of questions that we sent to each firm ahead of time, and they could come prepared with a, a slide deck to present to us. And then we had 30 minutes for general question and answer session, and then 5 minutes to wrap up. So, and of course, all of the questions, including the RFP, the RFP and the interview questions, really considered the projected needs that we had over the next 4 years. Go ahead.
Slide.
Yeah.
You said 6 were shortlisted.
Correct. So, based on the scoring, there were 2 that we felt could move forward without an interview. So it's not a requirement to interview at all. And then even if you do want to interview, it's not a requirement to interview everybody. Is that good? All right. So the big reveal. So in 2020, we had 5 firms: Black & Veatch, Carollo, CDM Smith, Hazen and Sawyer, and HDR. And through this process, we elected to keep 3 of the previous firms: Carollo, CDM, and Hazen and Sawyer. And we added Arcadis and Jacobs as our new firms.
There's no answer really to this question, just an observation. It seems like a lot of these projects under the environmental BOA are civil projects.
I mean, I guess generally we can consider all of them civil projects. We do make a distinction though. So for the civil BOA, we're looking for firms to help us with the more kind of standard linear projects, say pipe, short run of pipe replacement in Sterling or something like that. With the environmental BOA, we're looking for firms that have more sophisticated capabilities, a deeper bench, can do a wide variety of things, including linear projects.
Just an observation. Look, they all look, well, I guess they're all civil, like you said.
Yeah. And so that was my last slide. Any questions before we get to the motion? Sure.
Any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you. On I think it was slide 4, you mentioned that there's
Sure, which one's slide 4?
it's the one that lists the number of hours. No, go up. Or should have asked it there. One more. Yes.
Mhm.
So 159 task orders,
Mhm.
18.3 million, all billed hourly.
Yes.
That you could keep Sally really busy.
Keeps our PMs really busy too.
Yeah, well, I would think
Yeah.
so. And all this has been professionally using the Virginia requirements. So
Correct.
you can't ask them for pricing, and even after the BOA, you can't ask them. It's set, right?
Right. So the way that we negotiate our task orders is we write a scope of work first with the firm, kind of go back and forth until we're happy with that scope of work, and then we ask them for a fee. And then they provide the fee, and then we analyze that, and we go back and forth until we're happy with the fee. Yeah.
And so all those fees, when we do projects and your program manager do the project, that shows up when we do our 5-year CIP, which you mentioned in this. That's how the professional service estimate gets into our CIP.
So there's two parts, right?
Uh-huh.
For the projects that we haven't started, right? They're kind of future projects. We haven't selected consultant. That's estimates that we either have received, let's say we've done a study, right? So we have some estimates for the project, or it's estimates that our project managers develop based on information that we have, right? If a project is already underway and we know the scope and the fee for a project, then that is what is included in the CIP. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So much depends on that scope of work.
Yes.
What range of scores? Between top scored firm.
That's a great question. I don't know. Amy, you don't have it up, do you? We can, yeah.
I think we mentioned it before. It'd be nice to know like who ranked number 1, 6, and kind of provide the score tabulation, the rubric score tabulation.
Sure.
That's published by the county on. Seems like that, or give a
Yeah.
preference not to
I'm not
divulge
sure
it.
where-
There's no requirement to, yeah. I don't know, Amy, do you want to? I'm going to give her a minute to log into the system. She can take a look at it.
And just kind of having an understanding for what the spread is for how you choose not to interview a couple, or were they in the 90s or upper 90s or?
Yeah,
Perhaps you're asking
Yeah.
where that cutoff exists as well.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Non-selected firms.
sure.
Exactly. And how these firms are scoring in the whole rubric.
So
Um,
if they're already engaged in a project, and the BOA ends
Mhm,
and they were not selected,
mhm.
do they get to finish out that project?
Yes, so we can continue working with them through the life of the project because it was something that was already underway.
That's smart.
Yes. Otherwise, we'd have to stop for like a long period of time and not be able to do work, and that wouldn't be great either. So,
Have you ever received any complaints from any of these firms for not being selected?
not that I'm aware of. Amy, have we ever received any complaints? No.
And the 3 lowest ranked ones that they all request a debrief.
Yeah, all firms typically, well, we offer debriefings, so typically they all come in, but we haven't done that yet because we have to have a decision to award and a notice of intent to award before we can offer a debriefing.
Go to the motion. I'll read it. I move the recommendation to the board to authorize the general manager to execute 1-year basic ordering agreements with Arcadis, Carollo, CDM Smith, Hazen and Sawyer, and Jacobs with the option of 3 1-year extensions for environmental engineering and related services. Future task orders related to the agreement will be presented to the board in accordance with Loudoun Water Board policy, and I recommend this be put on the board's consent agenda. I'll get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was easy.
Thanks for answering those questions.
Next is the combined capital construction quarterly report.
I'm here to report out on our capital construction efforts through the year of 2025. The second year in a row here by myself. Rick will be back with me next year once some of the projects that they've got going ramp up for construction. And a quick correction, I do have a full report on 2025 towards the end of this presentation. The first part of the presentation is actually the fourth quarter 2025 report. It's early and I clearly not having enough coffee. We will start with highlights on Trap Rock standby generator installation in Russell Branch Pump Station, followed by a little deeper dive into Milestone Reservoir and Pump Station, and then wrap up with the reports for the fourth quarter of 2025. Starting off with the generator installation project, it's going well. It's contractually required to achieve substantial completion in the spring of 2026, and we believe we are on track to meet that date. Completed work so far. The generator has been relocated to its final position at the pad that was built with the intent for future installation over at Trap Rock. We have now piped up the silencer. Whoop. Lost it there for a second. Silencer puck here. The wiring is underway currently to then give way to the startup and commissioning process and basically commission out the project and wrap it up. Over at Russell Branch, construction of a 4.5 MGD pump station. We are still slightly delayed. We've undergone some efforts to recover, but after we had sort of come up with a schedule that we feel well represented, the contractor's ability to complete the work on time. There's been some more minor delays that have propped up along the way that have now slightly delayed the project. I believe the last schedule update might reflect a month or two of overall delay. So not major, but you know, it's still trying to keep up with the contractual time constraints there. But work itself has not lost momentum. The structure is coming up off out of the ground, as you can see on the picture here. And we've got ongoing work on site work, utilities, and you know, that's sort of pretty much the full picture here, Russell Branch.
Are you having supply chain challenges, cost creep on concrete materials?
Those have not necessarily been the more significant challenges associated with the project. And actually, I think I should probably give kudos to our contractors for, you know, managing that side of it relatively well across all of our construction projects so far.
Other people are seeing it, so, yeah.
What we're seeing a lot is, you know, overly conservative lead time. So then we scramble to really, you know, get everything released. And then that tends to then shorten out in actuality when, you know, that built-in conservatism rarely comes into play.
How much of an impact has the recent weather have on like 3 weeks of below freezing temperatures?
Funny you should ask. We have a single delay claim across all of our projects, and it is for Russell Branch. So our PMs are currently negotiating that with the contractor. They might be entitled to a day or
You couldn't
two.
control the weather?
Couldn't control the weather, not this year.
Not this year.
Moving on to Milestone. By now, you all probably know that we are underway with the structural construction of the pump station itself after having completed all of the mining and most of the site work sort of sits below the structure itself, as well as our major transmission lines, which convey water to and from the facility. So additionally completed work includes the AB tunnel plug, which is the connection between our reservoir and the adjacent Luckstone quarry. So that was a pretty major operation. We're glad to report it went relatively well. And I guess the bridge across Sycolin Creek is basically approaching substantial completion. We're pretty close to getting to the point where we can actually use it and then remove the temporary culverts across Sycolin Creek that we currently have for access.
I have one question.
Yes.
This project never ceases to amaze me as to the low percentage of change orders. I know you and Rick are responsible for this. Who else is responsible at Loudon for such a performance? I mean, it's unbelievable.
I think it starts with our design consultants.
Do you think so?
Our engineers do a pretty solid job of.
Do you have any field people that there must be a bunch of field people that are responsible for this?
Sure. Well,
I know you're
I think
the
it starts
boss.
with a good
I
design.
know you're the bosses and you take the credit, but
Well, we like to spread it around when we can. I think you're right. There is a field presence of inspectors that tend to catch things before they become major issues. And when we get to the change order report part and we start looking at some of the root cause analysis for where the changes were for the last year, I think I'll have a little bit more to say about that. I don't want to
okay.
get ahead of myself yet, but Projects on time. Last contractor schedule for January of 26 reports 120 days of float. I'm aware of the expectations I say when I set when I say that. Hopefully, we can keep that up through startup and commissioning, where we always tend to encounter a few challenges along the way that eat away at some of that float. But we are, for most intents and purposes, scheduled, projected to complete at the beginning of 2028 right now. So that's good news. Change order total through fourth quarter of 2025, a little typo there, is around right under $1 million here. And we've spent 55% over 46% time elapsed, which I think is reflective of where we're at with progress over time, right? Good performance on RFIs and submittals. Communication between the parties has been great. The anticipated start of commissioning is still around Q3 27, although with the contractor's schedule reflecting a little bit of an early finish at the moment, this might need to be revised to maybe set expectations to start with commissioning maybe on Q2. So we'll look at that for the next presentation that we give. Critical path work, again, this 90 days is reflective of the schedule we saw before this latest January schedule, then bump that up to 120. No outstanding claims and disputes. We've had a few major ones that we've been able to resolve with the contractor, so that's good news there. And then, like I said, no delays claimed or reported, and 8 change orders executed to date.
It's remarkable.
Thank you. This is a full list of our active construction projects. Like Mr. Sultan pointed out, the percent change order rate for a milestone is low, and it's pretty low across all of our projects. And I think it's remarkable that, all of these projects are well into their construction phase. So there's no padding here with, sometimes you'll get a recently started construction project with a 0% that sort of skews things a little low. But in this case, all of these projects are really well into their construction phase. And some of them, like Goose Creek Industrial SPS and Dulles South, are approaching, they're pretty much at over 90% completion, approaching the end here. So, yeah, I think it's great figures across the board overall. I'll pause here to see if there's any questions. And then for the fourth quarter of 2025, we did complete 2 projects, Lansdowne SPS reliability upgrades and the Broad Run Lab HVAC replacement. So you can sort of see where things fell in terms of performance for construction change orders for these 2 projects. And happy to report that, from what I know, our O&M staff is happy with the work in both counts. So.
On the final completion dates, any kind of observations or lessons learned from things going well past their original completion dates?
Yeah, these 2 jobs specifically had major challenges towards the end of the project that were not attributable to contractor performance or acts of the contractor. I can go into more detail, but for instance, in the case of the lab project, there were a lot of existing system issues that were uncovered along the way during construction. And I think for how many they were, the contractor and our engineers really did a great job of staying on top of it, taking the opportunity to incorporate scope into the project, to not just leave these issues, sort of out there for O&M to worry about, and really resolve them as part of the construction work. But at the end of all that, we felt like the contractor was entitled to a time extension to account for all that work. And so it's sort of a similar case in Lansdowne, where we just had to deal with
These
some things.
design problems that the engineer should know about, or just?
Unforeseen site conditions or unforeseen?
You could get into the nuance of, was this an issue that was discoverable during assessment, and then therefore attributable to some extent to the engineer? But in a lot of cases, specific cases for this lab project, we were pretty certain after analyzing that there was no way for the engineer to have caught it all.
I
During their
empathize
assessment.
with that because there's also so much lag in time between assessment and construction. that-
Right. That's the other thing. So there might have been some things that were not, had not manifested during the design.
And these two projects tell a little bit of a different story when you look at the change order percentages here, but I think these are highlighting a couple of our projects that are getting into existing facilities and rehab and renovation type projects. But I think we gave a presentation, I believe, last year on just a look back on our utilization of contingencies and things. So this is probably a couple examples that fall at the high end of that 5% contingency that's granted with the contract, where we still do everything we can to stay within that limit.
And that's actually a good segue to, well, we'll mention, right, that we have lots of upcoming construction projects, including one of the ones that we're most excited about, Package 1 site work for Phase 3 for the Broad Run expansion. That is underway now. It just didn't make the reporting cut for this period, so you'll see something on that for the next quarter. Here's some of our other projects that are coming up. COMSYS ammonia removal, progressive design build, which recently was approved for award by the board. So, segue on the overall roll-up for 2025. Even though it is true that these two projects, right, you can clearly see that they're on the higher end of our contingency use. And I'll even mention that for Lansdowne, we did have to come back to the board to request additional contingency. In the aggregate, it doesn't really skew our changes over the base contract amount figures in a really significant way on the overall aggregate. We tend to hover around that 1.5% historically year over year. So I guess this is sort of no different, right? And I think that's maybe attributable to the good performance that we've seen across some of the other projects. Like I said, change order is the total is low at 1.6% of the total base contract value. And the only completed project that we can report on here, I guess, is the Broad Run expansion. I guess I should have included Lansdowne and Broad Run lab replacement here for context as well. But
I wanted to take just a moment, Sam, if I could, because there were some questions about really the entirety of what supports these types of metrics. And I think I wanted to say from where I sit and where I see it, yes, of course, leadership, Sam and Rick, nothing really slips by these guys. You know, they're really watching things in a hawkish way on these contracts. But the other piece in my mind is this culture and team mentality here at Loud and Water, because it's bigger than that. It starts on the design side, collaboration during design across through other groups, operations and beyond. And then during construction, again, that collaboration with inspections in the field and operations for maintenance of plant operations and so forth. That to me is the big picture and all of the ingredients for the successes that we see here.
Like I say, when I was at Fairfax, if we had 5%, we would be ecstatic. I don't know if that speaks to you guys are just better and we're just worse, or what it was, but if we hit 5%, we used to be jumping up and down. So
thanks.
I like that slide.
That's a good slide. No linear projects to talk about. We will have a few that start up in 2026, as was presented earlier. Change order categorization. We've taken all of our root causes for changes, and we've done a little bit of consolidating, but generally we've landed on reporting on owner requested or value added improvements, E&Os, differing site conditions, and then sort of a miscellaneous category that includes other factors such as safety and code requirement improvements, quantity adjustments, unused allowances at the end of the project that get credited back, that sort of thing. So out of the total of around 4 million for changes in 2025. We see that overall 1.6, which is more accurately around 1.58, is comprised mostly of owner requested and value added improvements, which is sort of a similar situation than we had last year, almost down to the percentage. But it's followed by our DSCs, and then lastly, design engineer errors and omissions. And I should point out that this category number 2 rolls up both changes that were discovered in time to avoid rework and changes that necessitated rework. But if you were to break those out and report on them, I think over 95% of changes were identified before any rework was necessary. And the way we like to look at it is we would have paid to it to some extent with the bid price anyway as part of the design. And that I
Thank you
think
for that clarification.
that I think sort of wraps it up here. No recommendation slide on this one, so I'll pause and see if you have any questions.
So I have questions that are not necessarily on your slides. Is that okay, Chair? Can I ask those? The FEMA Superfund site, is there been any update on that, on how we work with that? Is it costing us any? I think it's Broad Run Estates, the
The
county
Broad Run
paying-
Farms project.
Farms, that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that project's gonna go, I think, out to bid in March, I believe. I think that's the latest, right? I think that's where we are. So, nothing yet for us. EPA started their work last year, so they're ongoing. I know it's been going on. We've been done with the design for years now at this point. We just had to be delayed behind them because we have to tie in once they're complete. So we've been sort of biding our time, waiting for them to get going. Yeah. So you'll see something this year on that, unless something happens, but you should see something this year.
And then the other, what I thought was the county funded sites, some of the.
Paonian and Waterford.
Yeah, that one we've already talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about some of the other smaller towns or smaller, trying to think of the name of the town,
So Unison.
Unison, and there's one other small one where we did the septic, there was so little below, St. Louis,
St. Louis.
So
yeah.
Howardsville, perhaps.
Howardsville.
Howardsville.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Howardsville, I think we brought a presentation, I think it was the end of last year,
Yeah.
for the design. So that'll go to construction, later this year. Yeah, and that'll be for the plant. For Unison, there's no work anticipated right now. Obviously, that could change based on, the county's direction.
Yeah, that's good.
So.
I just don't want to think about the number of loads of earth that's going to have to come in and fill in the ponds.
Lagoons, yeah.
Yeah. But thank you very much.
Yep.
All my questions.
Any other questions? Okay, the capital spending summary report.
Not much to report right now. The first report of the year is always a little lackluster because we don't have the invoices in, obviously, right? So just some finance spending for now. We'll see some more movement for the next report next year.
Guess there's no question.
Question on that one.
I guess that is the end of the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
That is a record. 35 minutes.
Try to extend it.